Hi there, this is Jonathan Ginsberg. I'm an Atlanta area personal bankruptcy attorney, and today I'd like to talk to you if you're a senior citizen, retired person who is struggling with debt. And I want to talk about both bankruptcy and non-bankruptcy options. I get calls from seniors quite frequently, folks who are retired and they are struggling with debt. It could be simply just credit card debt that's built up over the years. A lot of times it's from folks who've been helping their adult children, either with living expenses when the adult child has been without work, or sometimes it's because of student loans. It could be any number of things. But what you end up with is a senior on a fixed income, typically Social Security or a pension, and now there's debt, $25,000, $35,000, $40,000 of credit card or other debt that is basically becoming unmanageable. The phone calls are coming. It's very, very stressful. What do you do? Well, there are a couple of different options. Obviously, one is to look at the bankruptcy option. If you have nothing in terms of assets, meaning you have very little, you don't own a home, you have maybe a paid-for vehicle, but don't really have any other assets, you could, in theory, file Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and basically the debt just disappears. Now, there's obviously a moral component to that. That's sort of beyond what I do, but it is an effective economic tool to get rid of all this debt and just to kind of move on. And for some people, that's a good option. If you have assets, if you have equity in a home or other property, can't really file Chapter 7 because you would lose your equity. So in that situation, you could look at doing a Chapter 13. That's a payment plan. But if you have a lot of equity, and a lot of equity meaning for an individual more than about $20,000 of equity in a home, for a married couple about $40,000 of equity in a home, Chapter 13 may give you 5 years to pay the debt out without interest, but it's not going to eliminate the debt. And a lot of times Chapter 13 is not a great solution for somebody because 5 years is a long time, and it's a long time to make payments. But it's certainly out there. Another option, which I do with a lot of folks, it's a non-bankruptcy option, and that is basically to do nothing in terms of bankruptcy, but to do what I call the drop-dead strategy. And that is, I will write letters to the creditors, basically asserting my client's right under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and under the Fair Credit Reporting Act to tell creditors to leave them alone. They're on a fixed income, and if basically your only source of income is Social Security, there's nothing that creditors can do to you. They can file a lawsuit, but they can't garnish your Social Security. If you have a home, they can put a lien on that home, but they can't kick you out of your house. They're not going to foreclose on that lien for $5,000 or $10,000. So I have a few clients right now that we have done. I basically write these drop-dead letters. A lot of times what will happen is the creditor will basically put it into uncollectible status. I will get calls. I got one yesterday from a collection agency or law firm that does collection work asking about my client's situation. I get this every 5 or 6 months. I repeat to the person the same thing I tell them all the time. My client is, in this case, mid-70s. He has no real estate. He has no assets. He's not working. His only source of income is Social Security. Social Security is not subject to garnishment by a civil creditor like a credit card or medical bill, anything like that, and to leave us alone. If you want to go ahead and sue them. You're not going to get anything out of it. And they say, thank you very much. They put it on uncollectible status, and then 6 months later, they call me again. So that is an option. Again, no guarantee they're not going to sue you. No guarantee they're not going to, continue to try to collect on it. But they can't get your Social Security money as long as you keep it in a separate account. And they're not going to be able to do much in terms of other assets. And so if you don't mind having that kind of hanging over your head, then that's a really effective non-bankruptcy strategy. And then what could happen would be, 4, 5, 6 years from now, when the debt has gone unpaid, the judgment's gone unpaid for 3, 4, 5 years, I can then approach the creditor and say, look, my client has been able to get $2,000 from an adult child or to borrow it from somebody. Will you take this to settle this claim out? And I have settled $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 claims for $1,500, $2,000 because once a claim gets to be 4, 5, 6 years old, it is found money for the creditor, so they're happy to get anything. And if you're just willing to be patient with it, you can make this all go away very, very cheaply. You might have some tax implications because of debt forgiveness, but at the end of the day, we can manage it. It's not something that's a real problem in terms of dealing with the debt. By contrast, getting phone calls morning, noon, and night is a problem. And if I write the drop dead letter and tell them to stop calling you, they can't call you anymore. And that could be a big relief. So those are some of the things I do when I'm dealing with seniors. Like I said, sometimes bankruptcy is the best option to make it all go away very quickly and be done with it. Sometimes we do the drop-dead letter strategy and eliminate the phone calls. And then sometimes, in very few cases, we'll go into a Chapter 13 that will buy time, that will put us on a long-term payment plan and eliminate the immediacy of the problem. Now, one comment about student loans is not a lot you can do there. If it's government loans, there may be some of the income-based repayment programs available. It depends on the type of loan you've got. If you have very little in terms of income, then the payment would be very, very little. If it's a private loan, there may be some other alternatives we can do. So even with student loans, there are some sometimes creative, out-of-the-box type of things we can do. But the point is that don't struggle with this alone, whether it's me or anybody else. Call a lawyer and talk about your options. There's nothing worse than to give a creditor access to your checking account or to write post-dated checks, because again, it's more likely than not there's nothing they can do. And if you know that, they know that, but if they prey on your ignorance and they prey on your fear, then you may end up doing something you don't really need to do to deal with this debt. So again, call an attorney and get some advice about how to proceed. Hope you found this helpful. My name again is Jonathan Ginsberg. If you found this video useful, I'd appreciate it if you'd give a thumbs up on YouTube, like it on Facebook, and subscribe to both my YouTube channel and like our Facebook page. And if I can be of assistance to you, I'd be happy to do so. My website for bankruptcy is Atlanta-bankruptcy-attorney, and you'll find a lot of good information there about bankruptcy, but if you just prefer, pick up the phone and give us a call. I'm at 770-393-4985, representing folks in the northern part of Georgia for bankruptcy relief. Jonathan Ginsberg again. Hope to hear from you soon. Thanks a lot. Hi, this is Jonathan, and I hope you found this video helpful. I'd like to invite you to download my free Debt Destroyer Survival Kit right now. I've packed my survival kit with answers to the questions I've heard from clients for over 25 years here in the Atlanta area. Inside the survival kit, you'll find clear, easy to understand answers to critical topics about how to solve debt problems once and for all, including how do I protect my stuff, my house, car, and personal property if I file for bankruptcy? Are there any legitimate alternatives to bankruptcy? Will I ever get credit again, and if so, when? What mistakes must I avoid to get the most benefit out of bankruptcy? You can claim your copy right now by visiting my atlanta-bankruptcy.com website. And you are always welcome to use the email form on my website to ask me anything about debt and personal bankruptcy in Atlanta. www.atlanta-bankruptcy.com. And as always, I wish you the best.